get started if you like.
I hope this is like all we have today, like just 2 people.
It's possible.
I hope this is the day.
I was in Las Vegas. I came back last night, and I noticed that on the modules, although I haven't been telling everybody this, so usually if I write something on a module, no one pays any attention to it. Anyway, it said that there wasn't a class today.
Oh.
So my bad. So I just switched that anyway.
Is there a class today?
Well, we can see if there's enough people or not. And
if there's not, then we're just going to cancel.
Would you prefer?
Honestly, I don't know, because like I think of like my mother, who was also an instructor, and even if there was 2 people, like she was down to teach. Like, are you down to teach, or like?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stay.
That's kind of you guys. I mean, the other thing is we are streaming, so let's just see who's also.
If you want to go, like, I'm not gonna like.
Oh no! The reason I came back from Las Vegas is because I have 3 classes today, and I said I'm not going to cancel 3 classes on people. So.
Oh well, if you want to cancel this one and prepare for the next.
No, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Maybe we'll do something pretty quick, and then how's that? Partial?
You just do
quick and partial
the entire time.
We can do Kahoots on social media to start with, and you'll see some of the questions that'll be on the quiz, and they're just not a gigantic deal. I see that maybe Generation Like is not available. Maybe she switches browsers.
Yeah. Like Firefox. Firefox is like superior here.
Let's see. I don't know what I was playing it in, but I think it was pretty much okay. Well, so maybe we don't have too many people streaming with us either. We'll see. We'll see.
There's today.
So, yeah, looking ahead, what we've got coming up. Well, first of all, there are all these bonus quizzes up where you can make extra credit points by taking these quizzes, and they're basically like more randomized questions on those chapters. So basically, you can't go wrong, right? It's all extra credit.
If we flop, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't take anything away from you. It just adds. So those are all available for you. And here we are in this week. So we're going to be talking about business. And it was actually fun for me to go to NAB, which is all business, right? There's no, it's National Association of Broadcasters. Every April they go to Las Vegas. It is huge. I've never seen so many middle-aged white men in one place at one time. There was like literally tens of thousands. And which is not to say it's a great thing that there's not more diversity in broadcasting, and there, were people of color and women, but it was like dominant, like just guys, and all the ones with tattoos, they're in production, and all the ones in suits, they're executives. It was mostly suits at this thing, but it was interesting. I could tell you more about it. So next week, media operations, which is more like from the perspective of a company. More from the perspective of a company or a television station, like what it's like to work there, like what kinds of things go on. And we'll be, we'll be spending a good part of the next class, that Tuesday on review, and then taking the quiz. So, we may not say all that much about media operations. The week after, we do have a mandatory meetup day on the 25th. So what we're doing on the 25th, just a reminder, is we're doing like an industry news report, basically. So I'm asking all the students to come in on the 25th.
That sounds so fun.
With one 60-second kind of news update about a media company that's in broadcasting or streaming or podcasting, but something that's got like electronic media. Versus, not Disney's theme parks, but Disney's streaming service or ABC or ESPN or Pixar, all the things that they own.
Wait,
but maybe not
60 seconds? We have only that much time to talk about it?
I say that, but I don't turn on a clock. It's just if you don't say that, there's like 5 minutes of, so if we all try to do it like as though we were news anchors and we say, today, NBC reported that Disney has just taken control of 21st Century Fox, which includes their television studios and their huge film library. And unfortunately, 400 executives will be laid off, et cetera. So that, but well, when you combine two huge companies like that, there's going to be.
Yeah, especially in LA with those industry startups, like it's so easy for that to go like downhill like the second they stop getting like investments because they like don't convince investors anymore. Everyone gets laid off, just everyone, and the company drops.
Do you know people who've been in that situation?
My boyfriend.
Really?
Yeah, he was working with like rappers, like famous people, and like making like their brand and like promoting their albums, and then he had like this terrible boss who could not talk to people. And even though he was talking to like the creators of Simpsons and like everyone like that, like he was such a bad like talker that like no one wanted to invest. And then so he got laid off and like everyone else got laid off and the company is now nothing. They're gonna go under rebranding, but I don't know what they're gonna do next.
Okay. So were they kind of like the outfit that we saw in the documentary there, where they work with artists and promote their brand through social media?
Yeah, because like it was all on Instagram and Twitter, and like they actually bought about 10,000 followers so they could look more popular.
Okay.
And they would get all these random likes so people would be attracted to them, and they had like this like big chart of like how many followers did we get in 1 week, so we need to get like at least 10,000 in like 2 weeks, and we need to get like this many likes and stuff. It's really
so instead of like in the advertising part of old media, you would have quotas that you try to hit, like so many,
It's so intense to watch.
And this time it's like now it's likes quotas. It's like social media quotas.
Yeah, and like followers, like we need to get this much attention, and like if we don't get it, we're not gonna like do anything else. Like it's really intense and hard to watch, but like it was like definitely a new perspective on everything, because like it's just interesting how the industry is so calculated.
Oh yeah, sure. And I mean, I don't know that much about that part of it, so it's really interesting just to hear about it.
And now he's doing a podcast in LA and gonna set up a Patreon, because he has like 10,000 followers on Twitter, so he has like a lot of, I guess, like clout for like the comedy internet world.
Cool.
So he's starting this like Patreon, and hopefully he can get some money from it, like maybe like 500 every week, and then get like at least like 200 listeners every week.
That would be cool.
Podcast. So I think it'll work out because so many people are interested, and like a lot of famous comedians in LA want to work on his podcast. So it'll garner a lot of attention.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when he was working for this company, the startup that's just about to go under, was he like an employee getting a salary, or?
He was salaried, and he was the video editor, and also he was also a producer.
Wow.
He actually wore a lot of hats because there was only 4 people or 3 people, so he was doing a lot. He had to video edit, he had to record audio, he had to learn how to promote, learn how to make a brand. And just like everything in between, like working with high profile people, knowing where to go, knowing what to say, what to ask. And like he also like would make these cartoons, like it was the whole thing. It was like making cartoons, so he had to hire writers for each cartoon. It was really, he was doing a lot of work for them. He was not getting paid enough. He had like a 500 a year salary, and I know it sounds like really big, but like for LA, it's like pennies. Like,
are you serious?
Yeah, he was only getting like 1K every other week, and like it sounds a lot for someone who was like 23 at the time, but like it's hard to pay your rent and then also have fun in LA because like rent is expensive.
Like that, yeah. So, and what got him in with them was like his following, as well as all of these talents that he has, but also just that he has like a lot of
he was like he's like kind of a staple in a lot of memes, because he jumps on memes like immediately. He thinks it's like the perfect thing to do, and like he's like, I guess, revered in LA as like one of like a really funny underground comedian. So he does a lot of stand up and he does a lot of writing and he has all these ideas and plans. He just needs like a little push from more high profile people that he knows, but they won't do it because they are stingy with their thing. Like they know that if they like promote him, they're gonna like people are gonna pay more attention to him versus them, so they don't want to like push him forward because like they know that he can really grab the attention. Yeah,
Cool.
it's crazy.
Wow. I wish him luck. You know, a lot of problems is it's capital. You know, it's just having the money to be able to, you know, set the company up and start promoting it properly. And a lot of people who have the capital don't have the talent, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Right? You know?
Like some of the socialites of LA, like they don't have the same talent as him when it comes to stand up, but they get way more attention because of just their social capital. It's kind of annoying because it's like he should be getting paid for these things instead of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if it's confirmed that he has the talent, if he keeps sticking to it, you know, then it's something will happen.
People definitely love him. Like they think that he is like, I guess, like one of the kings of memes in a way. It's like he's been on YouTube Poop. He's been on like he was like on 4chan for a small amount of time. He was on Tumblr for a huge amount of time. And doing a lot of stand-up and talking to a lot of like prominent people like Hannibal Buress and like and like Eric Andre, like he was like really sticking his foot in the door.
Does he interview them, or he does kind of like comedic interviews, like little bits?
He was mainly just networking and like trying to get his foot in the door and trying to get like more noticed, but he does do that kind of stuff too. Because like with the celebrities, he had to interview them a lot. So like a lot of them, like he had to construct a lot of the interviews and what to say exactly to make them seem more interesting. Like he couldn't make stupid questions, vague questions that everyone asked. He had to make really, really interesting, capturing, enticing.
That's the real deal. Yeah, trying to get something interesting out of anybody. Yeah. That is a lot of work. That's a lot of effort.
It was like I feel like that's why this class is like really serious for me because like I want to learn what he knows, and he's never been to college. He just knows this naturally, but like I want to learn this and like understand it to a T so I can understand what he does.
It sounds like you've learned a lot, you know, knowing him, hanging out.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, it's definitely. The other thing is for you, it's like you've seen the reality. You see.
Yeah, I see the truth. It's pretty. I don't know. It's ruthless in LA. It's really cutthroat. Like if you can't make it, you just got to go back to where you came from.
It's tough. Yeah, because it's so expensive. I guess it drives people away. Yeah.
And like media is like the biggest thing in LA. Like everyone wants to be an influencer. Everyone does. Which is why they had that like influencer like performance art. Like, did you hear about that? It was like a mural in Hollywood where like if you only have 10K and up followers, you can take a picture with it. So everyone was trying to get as many followers and as many likes as possible so they could take a picture at this mural, and it was only for a week, and it was insane. Like it had a bodyguard.
Wow, amazing. So, and were people checking before you could get your shot?
Yeah, like they had to like confirm it and like also confirm that they weren't bot followers. Like it had to be real people. Yeah,
that's an issue, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying the company just bought some just in order to look more influential.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I'll have to read up on it. I didn't know about it.
Yeah, the person who made that was Jack Wagner. He's like this influencer of LA. He works a lot with this guy named Brandon Wardell as well.
Okay. Are they agents and stuff?
No, they're actually just comedians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm sure influencers have agents and
managers now. They have agents with like Star Agency, ACC or something like that, and like there's like a bunch that people have just so they could go to the right events to get the most like clout. It's really interesting.
And somebody also has to like intermediate between the clients and the actual influencers.
Yeah, and like PR, like that kind of stuff. Like make sure you don't post these kind of things.
Oh yeah. Well, they're probably pretty canny about that anyway, just themselves,
definitely.
Right? To get there.
Yeah, like I've seen it where like they're like, don't call me out, and I'm like, I'm not gonna call you out, but like
But you really shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey Julian, good to see you.
Yeah.
We're an intimate crowd today.
Howdy.
And I think there's more people in chat too.
What are y'all talking about?
The influencers in Los Angeles and
Gotcha.
like the whole entire culture of like social media and like how it's like it's like the biggest industry of LA. Like everyone wants to be in the media. Everyone wants to work at a startup. Everyone like wants to do advertising. It's crazy down there. Like it's ruthless for real.
No, I was going to school out in Maryland for a minute, and like whenever I talk to anybody, I was like, "Oh, I'm from San Francisco, California." They'd be like, "Oh, I want to go live in LA. Like it seems like a movie," and I'm like,
No, literally.
"Stay where you at, because like
Exactly.
we don't want you in the state, and they definitely don't want you down there. Traffic's bad enough." But it's like, you know, everybody has this idea like out of LA that like that's the one major spot you got to go to make it. It's
Yeah.
like.
You can go to a lot of different spots to make it, but also I feel like not everyone has to make it because there's real talent out there with all these little transplants. Like people with the real talent are getting like so they're just slipping through the cracks basically.
Yeah, they get swept under the rug because
Yeah.
whoever has the most money to buy followers, like you know, you see the numbers, like you see people with like crazy numbers, and you're like, not that many people actually watch your shit. Like, it's not that good. So it's just like, it's wild that like that's what stardom is now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's what stardom
It's
is
like
now.
being a YouTuber. It's being Instagram famous. Like that's all it takes. You don't have to do like movies. You don't have to do shows anymore. You just have to be famous on the internet. You can get whatever you want. You can do brand sponsored ads where you can just get like free Chanel, free Balenciaga. Like it's
Just posting about it and tagging the brand.
Yeah.
Like, that's enough to like
Exactly.
get them to notice you. And
Yeah.
then once they notice you, then it's like, oh, let me see how I could actually put them into my ads instead of just having them do it. Like
Yeah.
like in the movie that we watched, you know, it gets the consumers to do the advertising for the brand.
You should watch the Firefest dog.
I've been wanting to watch. There's one on Netflix, one on Hulu. Which one's better, do you think?
The Netflix one is better.
The Netflix one is better?
Like, it's literally like what we are learning. It's all about ads, and it's why influencers put hashtag ad now on things because like it's just crazy. Like I think we should watch that in class one day because it's like I think it fits.
All right, that's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
There is like towards the end of the semester, especially, there's definitely times to watch stuff. I remember last time I put up the South Park documentary. Did you guys see that? It was like I got complaints. So let me look at the Netflix one first. I'm sure it can't be like as potentially offensive as South Park. Oh man, but it was a lot of fun. I love that doc. Like 7 Days to Air. Have you guys seen that? No. It's basically they do an episode every 7 days, but sometimes they don't know what the hell they're doing. So you follow through like, you know, the pressure you can see that's like, oh my God, you know, and they wind up finishing like, I don't know, an hour before it's like someone drives the tape over to the satellite place to upload it to Comedy Central or something, like literally. And then you see them, they all go to sleep and they know they have to be back like the day after, basically, you know. It's like, because they come up with these things so close to the time that it airs, but that's why they can do funny stuff about, you know, something that happened last week.
The most relevant stuff.
Sounds
Yeah.
SNL-ish.
Yeah, it is in a way, except it's animation, right? And like The Simpsons is, you know, they're months in advance because they send it to get animated in Korea and everything, you know. But South Park, it's all done on a computer, and they have the studio there. And you see them go in and record the voiceovers, and it's like bleep, 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 but you can't bleep like the whole idea, you know. So it's really very funny and amazing, like the work that they do and the time they do. Rick likes 7 Days to Air as well. But I had some students that thought it was a little much. Anyway, so we know what's coming up. We know that next week we're reviewing for a quiz, and that we have a quiz, but the quiz can be taken online. And then the week after, we're talking about industry news. So we'll be, you know, on quiz day, pretty much I'll be like just coaching people about how to do their industry news, 60 seconds and stuff. And that's always a lot of fun and a good chance to catch up on a lot of stuff that I never heard about, and also, trot out some of our information that we're learning from the class. So this one is, this week it's Business of Media, and also we could also do the Kahoot on social. So let me just say, like over at NAB, where it was like, or being the last few days, there was one interesting snippet that I heard of a bunch of stuff, but there were these, like a panel of executives. It was a panel on 5G, which we were talking about, and where the industry is going with 5G. So the thing about NAB is there's like no influencers, there's hardly any content producers. It's all like the broadcast business side of it, not the creative side. And so it can be pretty dry. But anyway, one of these old guys was saying at the 5G, talk, was saying, if you look at the history of television, he said the first 30 years, television was like a terrestrial business inherited from radio. So there was like, everything was distributed through your network affiliates. And he said in 1980, satellites came on the scene and everything changed. And one thing that the way he framed it, which I'd never thought about, was that prior to that, remember AT&T was distributing all of the content through its long distance lines. They had high speed long distance lines that were linking together all the networks. And the guy just said in passing, it was going up every year, it was going up 6%, 8% or something like that. And the broadcasters couldn't tolerate that anymore. So when they had satellites, they changed to distributing all of that. They undercut AT&T and they put it all up on satellites where they could control the cost. So I was like, oh, I always teach satellites, how interesting. But then it turns out the whole reason they went to satellites was to, because they couldn't stand getting charged AT&T rates. And that was a monopoly that had been established in the 1920s, right? Back when after the First World War, AT&T got, distributing the signal to the stations, and NBC and CBS got to be the networks, and RCA so this was where all that blew up. And then he said, 30 years later, now 2010 you've got mobile, you've got streaming video, and he said, so for the next 30 years, we don't know exactly how it'll happen, but what we're gonna have now is everything fits together. Terrestrial, satellites, mobile, and what they call IP, which is just through the internet. All of that has to become seamless to the consumer. So you like a show or like a person, a performer, and you're gonna consume them like God knows through every different way. And they wanna make that absolutely easy for everybody to do. And that's their objective. So at NAB, there were like dozens of companies. All they did is video compression, like just making this, look better for smaller data flows. It was amazing. So anyway, it was interesting. Just every 30 years, there's these giant turnovers from an industry perspective. Yeah. So anyway, that was just one of the little things that were kind of cool. Why don't we do a Kahoot on the social media thing before we change the subject and everything? And you'll see. So again, some of these will be on the quiz coming up, so it's good practice and such. And I bet I'm already logged in here. So let's get a Kahoot here. It was chapter 9, I think, was social media. So, where's chapter 9? There it is. Play. I think it's chapter 9. Classic. $874, $246. Anybody playing along streaming is going to be a little frustrated because it's not the greatest. Taking me extra long time to log in. Right. Well, you guys are in, and Rick is in too. All right, that's cool. We'll start.
It's me.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a lot of like kind of short summaries of services, like Instagram versus Facebook versus Twitter. So which service is considered to have broken the ground for the social networking sites of today? So in other words, the first of the ones that we talked about.
Oh wait, it was probably.
Journal, Friendster.
I want to change my answer.
Ah,
I really want to change my answer.
can you go back and change?
No.
Darn.
I
Okay.
knew it was that.
All right. So Friendster, I guess. I don't know if Rick is able to vote in time. Sorry. Yeah, Rick isn't able to vote in time, I think. Okay, blogs can be considered watchdogs of both the government and the media. True or false? All right. Well, we're saying it's true. In the early days of blogging, there was plenty of kind of breaking news on blogs in a sense. Pardon me?
It's journalism.
I mean, it's citizen journalism without all of the fact checking and everything that's going on with it. But yeah, it's so that's what it's regarded as. Watchdogs. Okay, which of the following describes Facebook? All right. Social layer across all of Google's services. A social network designed to connect college students. A what? Something textual interface. A liberal news site. All right, we got it all. Started off with college students and went to old people like me. Which of the following best describes Instagram? Okay. Microblog, social network, a place to store visuals, a video game play community. These are tough.
They should have done what Snapchat did and called themselves a camera company.
Ah, how come?
Because, wait, no, Snapchat should have called themselves a camera company, but Instagram did it first. And
Oh,
that's why
okay.
Snapchat is like no longer popular because they didn't call themselves the right thing. They didn't promote the right thing.
But didn't Snap put out like glasses themselves or something like that, or some kind of
Yeah.
camera device?
It didn't take off too well because then Instagram got stories, and then Snapchat changed their interface, which was like the downfall.
Yeah, you guys were talking about that before.
I think they
Yeah.
got people off the platform.
Ah.
I think also like the glasses was a little too similar to like Google Glass, and I feel like that like, turned a lot of people off because they were like, this is the same thing as Google Glass.
And it was creepy. Like, my boyfriend has those, and I don't like them because I'm like, you're recording me at all times. Like, I can't trust these. Like,
Oh yeah.
take them off.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So and Snapchat didn't get bought out by any bigger company, right? I think.
No, which is another
quietly owned.
mistake.
Right. Sell while you're hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there were two good answers on this one: a place to store visuals and a social network. So, which of the following best describes Twitter? An open access network, a microblogging social networking site, an investigative reporting site, a job search network. Okay, so there were a couple of good ones here too. So the open access network, the idea there being like you can have you don't need to give a username in order, or a real identity in order to get into Twitter. And then microblogging, that makes sense to everybody. So everybody got that one. Okay. Something collects pages of images reflecting a mood or vision called a self-expression engine. Instagram, Facebook, Google+, Pinterest. All right. Cool. Is that something to do with their brand, Pinterest?
Yeah,
I mean,
because you can create
self-expression.
folders of like tattoos I want, and then all the tattoos you want, and like things I think are cute.
Okay, cool. Something is a social network most associated with career and job information. Okay, this is one I actually use. right, great. LinkedIn. Something is known for impermanent posting that disappears fast. All right, great. Which platform is primarily issue-oriented, where ideas are shared, not photos and likes? LinkedIn, Reddit, blogs, Google+. I could see a couple of good answers in there.
It's not Reddit.
Well, this is according to the textbook, but I would take it as being correct.
Because usually you have like it's an open forum. Usually you don't have to have pictures and likes.
I agree. I agree. No, I said I thought Reddit and blogs would be appropriate there. So we'll adjust that for the quiz if this one is in the quiz. I can't remember. So, but yeah, this one definitely, Reddit seems to me is definitely issue oriented
Reddit's
as
an
well.
evil place. I hate it. People should not post up on Reddit. Yeah.
Something occurs when the ordinary person on the street using social media observes and reports. Press freedom, gatekeep mayhem, citizen journalism, cyber need. All right, excellent. Yeah. Citizen journalism. And being loosely yet incessantly connected with others via social networks is, okay, this is something.
This is hard.
All right, well, fooled you. The scholars call it ambient awareness. I'm pretty sure I didn't teach that last week, so don't feel bad about it. But that's, it's the idea that you're always sort of aware of what's going on with all these people that you're connected to, but it's not like an actual, strong bond in some ways. It's just, you heard of them, basically. What's not true about internet privacy? Users feel in control of their data on social media sites. Digital communications makes government surveillance easier. Apple refused to unlock phone of San Bernardino terrorist. If you post stuff online, it may stay there forever. So which of these is not true?
The last one was alternative awareness, right?
Pardon me? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is alternative ambient
Gotcha.
awareness. Yeah, because okay, got it. Users feel in control of their data. They don't. Yeah, and
Conditions.
terms and conditions, all that stuff that you don't have time to really look into, right?
When all of the social media sites changed their terms and conditions after that huge Facebook scandal and everyone got so freaked out. It was crazy.
Let's just check out ambient awareness, what we find in this way out. The idea of being ambiently aware of another's actions, thoughts, and experiences without having to be near them physically and without specifically requesting such information. Yeah. So it's kind of like just, knowing what's going on in someone's life because once in a while something pops up in the feed. It's like, oh yeah, didn't she get married like last year or something?
Yeah, like when the algorithm or just like the whole timeline is not like
Synced.
yeah
It's allowed.
yeah it's like top tweets first and it's not like chronological. I hate that.
Ah,
It makes me want to just like watch people's stories like on Instagram because that's like the best indication of what's happening like
Yeah.
right now. Because
What's
every
because those go up when they're posted and then come off pretty quickly.
Yeah,
it's just like 24 hours. It's like a
Yeah.
24-hour cycle. So it's like you post it whenever, and then it just kind of shows up in your feed based off like who you look at or when it's there,
Yeah.
and then it just goes away after 24 hours. But like because the Instagram algorithm, how it got redone, it's just like whoever has the most likes, and the same with Twitter, I think. Whoever has the most
Yeah.
likes, that's what pops up at the top of the feed. So it might have happened like 2 weeks ago, or it might have happened
Right.
like 3 days ago. But things that happened maybe within the last 24 hours probably won't be up there. You would have to
Because-
scroll for a while.
Got it. because not people haven't had a chance to boost it and like it.
Yeah, just based off whatever.
One thing my boyfriend did when he wanted to get back in the algorithm, he commented on his last 5 pictures, like just his own comment, and added hashtags, and it brought him up to the algorithm, and then all those pictures got the most likes.
Interesting.
You can control the algorithm if you really know what like. What
Oh,
it's
okay.
about.
So
Yeah.
and just he himself, like not from other accounts, but from within his own account, he
would
just
comment like
that would
just
bring it
some
up.
joke on it, you know, like a hashtag.
okay,
Yeah.
and it would work.
Oh,
Wow.
it did work. Yeah.
Interesting. There must be there must be a whole lot of lore about each of these platforms about what you need to do in order to make it work, and then they change it as well, right? Which is what freaks everyone out. Oh, gosh. Okay. All right. Well, you see that the questions regarding the platforms are pretty basic, and ambient awareness. That's something I didn't even teach. So. Glad we had a chance just to see it. So, once again, it's going to be a section of some of these for the actual quiz. Oh, so it was 6 days there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rick had too much lag to stay on for the quiz. Yeah. That's too bad that it doesn't work at a distance. Okay. So on to the ownership and. I promise we'll go for a short time today, maybe, because this is not our most super cool topic. There's a lot of history in this one.
No, this is like actually really hard for me to pay attention to. I don't understand business logistics.
Well, it's interesting because you know a heck of a lot about the business from the perspective of a performer or from the talent. They call them talent, right?
Yeah.
And whenever I go to NAB, again, I consider myself relatively informed as an educator, but when you go and see what the current industry is really talking about, I haven't heard a lot of that stuff too. So it's a huge business, So this one is from the perspective of those guys at the NAB. So we'll do what we can to kind of try to think like them, but basically what they're thinking about is making money and not so much from selling their their creativity or something, but from establishing a connection with an audience that is really, really reliable. I'd say that is one of their main concerns. So from a performer's point of view, it's like a milestone if you do something that goes viral and 1 million people see it. It is amazing, right? But from a business person's point of view, they would much rather see 100,000 show up every week than 1 million show up once, because they're not interested in those they like other kinds of milestones, but what they want is a really consistent audience showing up. And talent for them is just a cost. So the other thing is they want a consistent audience, and they don't want to pay too much creatively or in terms of any of their costs. They want to keep them down. And so if you keep that in mind, that goes a long way to describing why they think the way that they do. In terms of business models, we saw historically. And still the number one is advertiser supported, right? And then we talked about sponsors, which have made a big comeback. Your boyfriend who has Patreon is, that's a current very cool use of the internet to kind of for individuals to benefit from sponsorships. And then we talked about, what were they? They were ad networks for blogs and other web-based entities, and so that would allow them to sell, get into advertising and stuff. So in fact, that's totally wrong. Ad networks would be a new development in this. The other thing is basically, what would I call it? There's subscriptions, right, from streaming services, or so it would be cable and then streaming. That's another business model. And then I'll call it just one-off sales, basically, which is not an industry term, but that's just basically selling a unit, selling a song, selling an album, instead of, or selling access to a show or something like that, which of course is now so much easier based on, Amazon Prime or anything, iTunes, whatever. So these are basically the business models that that really exist even today. And then there's going to be maybe some combination of them, like a cable, which basically has subscription but also advertiser revenue, or maybe, I'm not sure what's happening. I know that Spotify is featuring a lot more podcasts now. And I'm wondering does that pay the podcasters a little bit? I hope it does.
Difference when you do. So
Yeah.
you put it on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah. So iTunes is, the directory for podcasts that, everybody, that's really where the action is. So you want to get a lot of good reviews and likes on that. But they don't, they don't make any money off of it. It's just a listing, basically. Because I'm wondering if Spotify, you actually get a little bit of revenue from it. Because otherwise, as a podcaster, you're trying to sell little ad spots in there. And there are podcast networks as well. There's one, there's many, I think, but there's one.
NPR?
There's Panoply is one, right? So NPR, I think they basically, I don't think that they actually distribute other people's podcasts. I could be wrong about that. They were at NAB.
I know they have a lot of different ones.
Yeah, they were at NAB. They had a booth and they were like promoting some kind of service, but I didn't have a chance to go and talk to them about what it was. It was like one of my disappointments about leaving there a little too soon. But so there's Panoply. There's another one called Earwolf. There's another one called Maximum Fun, which probably your boyfriend has heard about because they specialize in comedians and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it might be something he could check out anyway. So the benefit of that for a podcaster is that, again, they take care of the ad sales and split the revenue with you and stuff. So that could be. So there are ad networks or podcast networks in that area. So there's, you can pretty much look at any business that's functioning in the media and kind of at least start to understand it based on these broad categories, And one-off sales is like, it's great, but you spend a lot of promoting it and then you've sold it once and you're done, right? Versus obviously subscriptions, they would prefer that because you're getting people on a track which pays you money, month by month. So that's pretty cool. And then sponsors are back, even though spots are the main ways that we still have advertisers working with us. So, that's another thing just to think about, just keep this in mind anyway. As you look at any business that's coming out, any new business model that might be there, you can kind of assign it to one of these big categories and understand it a little bit better based on that, I feel that way anyway. It helps me a lot. Historically, just looking at this as well, there are other countries which, if you wanted to add this in, you'd tax basically is a government tax that would support things like the BBC and stuff, which were great. I don't have too much more to add to that. So they talked about spots, sponsorship, subscription. Do you guys feel like any of these is the way of the future, basically, compared to?
Yeah.
Which one do you think?
I think that, because it's becoming more of something that you can make a lot of money off.
Yeah.
So people are trying to hop on it because you could make up to 100,000 and then get a really nice house in the Palisades, all off of internet content. Crazy.
Yeah, that's certainly. So the internet content, are we talking YouTube and stuff? And
Memes, making memes.
Making
hopping
memes.
on them. And then everyone's doing stand-up now, which I kind of hate. like that's like a new popular thing because it makes you a lot of money, and it's like really annoying because there's like good stand-up people, and then like
There's people that aren't funny.
yeah.
So how are they making money? Like just live appearances and stuff, and then
Just getting booked.
Okay.
For like at the satellite, it's like this thing in Silver Lake. If you get booked there, you're basically like you know you made it. 'Cause
Okay.
Then you're getting like half of like you're getting like $500 just to get on stage for 10 minutes.
Okay. And if you can do that regularly, and then that
Yeah.
it's kind of like getting photographed in front of the wall with minimum 10,000.
And there's a bunch
It's
of
another marker.
agents there who are trying to find talent, and then so it's like you're being watched when you're there.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
You have to be careful.
And that could lead to opportunities like in electronic media.
It's the future.
Yeah.
I swear.
And like your boyfriend is also trying to keep his notoriety up with many different things, but also with a podcast right now.
Yeah.
It could go the other way around though. Like if you're doing like skits and stuff on, well, like Vine's not here anymore. But like if you do skits and you put them on Twitter, you put them on Instagram, and they get a lot of likes. There's probably some talent agents that are like, oh, you attract a lot of attention. Let's put you on the stage. Because it's like it's not just like, oh, you get on the stage and then you find yourself in people's homes. It's like you find yourself in people's homes. People will more than less likely like go out and watch you on stage because they know, oh, you do this on my phone. So like I want to see I'll pay a little bit of money to see you do this on the stage. Like,
Right. So you're probably doing both at once, right? You're probably doing both at once.
Yeah,
Which
like-
makes sense.
and
It's
they
like-
both like feed into each other.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you want to tweet about your upcoming show. It's great if you have a little funny clip that you can put out there at the same time for people.
That's what I've been trying to do because me and my roommates, we made this collective called Girl House.
Cool.
And we've done like so much promo for it to get as many people in Oakland to come to our shows, and it's kind of working like slowly. Like
Cool. Great.
yeah, it's like we're getting like spots in really good bars, and so we should be getting like maybe like 500, like a couple.
Wow,
times.
that's exciting. That's exciting. Okay.
It's definitely work, but I think, I don't know, like this class has really helped me understand how to like propel our brand.
Oh, well, that's good. Sounds like you got a lot of great ideas before this class anyway. And we have a social media class, which you might, eventually you could enlighten them with your experience and stuff, because this sounds like you're really doing it. That's great. That is
Yeah.
really good.
You gotta try.
Yeah. Super. Use it. I mean, the opportunities are there, and they never were before. So that's really cool. I'm just wondering, what is I'm trying to think, like, actually what we just talked about is quite complex in the sense of, I guess, I mean, let's say you're a performer and you're getting enough hits or likes or subscriptions on your YouTube channel so that you can actually, you're actually sharing some revenue with Google on that as they sell advertising around that. So you could be, engaged in that. Patreon could help you work on a subscription model. Or that would, I guess, or that's like a sponsor model perhaps, but I don't know, it's like a monthly sponsorship. I guess that would be a sponsor model. Huh. Yeah. It is complex. And, I mean, I guess I'm hesitating about, a one-off sale. I'm also thinking like a single appearance where you make a certain amount of money, $500 or something, but that's where it stops. Might be kind of similar to a one-off sale.
That's probably it. But, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, because we just do a show for like maybe 4 or 5 hours, and then we get like $200 to like $700.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So do you split like the money that comes in?
Yeah, if we have a guest DJ, I'm like, I don't care about getting paid because I'm just considered the manager. But like, if it's just me and my roommate doing it, I get like, it's like 60-40. That's how we try to split it.
With the venue or between the two of you?
Between
performing?
like the both of us after,
okay.
or like she'll buy me something that I want. Like,
Okay, cool.
Marijuana, like.
Whoop, beep.
And then you get like a
Actually, it's legal.
Oh yeah, have you heard of Starline?
Like I've heard the name, but I've never been there.
Yeah, it's like a really popular bar in Oakland on MLK. and we just got a spot secured there for the 26th.
I was lit.
So we should be getting like at least 500 to 700 that night.
So like house? So it's house? Or is
Oh
it?
yeah, it's definitely, it's house footwork. It's like a lot of really cool music. Yeah.
Okay.
Woo. Okay.
For sure ad.
Oh,
Yeah.
like when is the show at?
Put that on like social media.
Oh,
Whatever
yeah.
I can do to like find it.
I'm just trying to look through this for something vaguely interesting that we can talk about today, because otherwise, oh my gosh.
But
All right.
That's on Instagram, by the way. Yeah.
Things that we have to watch out for here. Let's see here. Smaller broadcasts, networking stations. Ooh, my God. This is a heavy chapter full of boring business stuff. Broadcast stations. It's gigantic. Really trying to find something that might be owning, operating, broadcasting. Let's just hit to now. Then, okay, let's do 2 or 3 of these, and then we'll break. So, you know, I've always been drawing a triangle about advertisers, networks, and audiences basically as being the key players in the ad-supported model. And in the textbook, they make it just a little bit more, you know, they build in a few more players than I have, you know, accounted for in my triangle, basically. But, you know, again, I'd say networks, stations, producers. So, you know, this would be this side of it. What they've, advertisers and audiences. So what I don't account for in my little triangle is basically the regulator, the FCC. So we're doing okay with a triangle, but with the FCC counting in there as, you know, controlling content and licensing, I guess that is another very important player. And I think they've largely been asleep at the wheel when it comes to the developments around the internet and stuff. What still regulates a lot of internet media, right? The old stuff goes way back to the 1934 Communications Act, you know, in terms of giving the FCC the right to license stations. So if you want to have a terrestrial station, you have to get a license from them. Their mandate to control content, so against like obscene content, that dates back to there, right? With the Telecommunications Act in 1996, that was the first major workover of those rules, and they wanted to take into account what they could do for the internet. And at the time, one of the big guarantees that they put in place was that an internet service provider would not be held accountable for content that was put on the platform unless it was brought to their attention, basically. So there was some fear, I guess, on the part of the platforms that they would get sued, and for instance, YouTube was sued for infringing CBS content and stuff. And so the DMCA basically said, okay, you're not responsible until the rights holder informs you that there's an infringement, and after that you are. And so that's when, you know, the flagging of copyrighted material started happening on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever. You know, as it's okay, they're not held responsible until somebody tells them that there is infringement going on. And this also has to do with pornography, child pornography, stuff like that as well. And that is in part an explanation for why they haven't been more proactive about regulating content which could be dangerous or, super offensive or stuff like that. So the DMCA is in part, although it was intended to sort of like free up the ISPs to allow people to post and do what they wanted, on the other, by holding them not accountable for what goes on there. On the other hand, that is one of the reasons why such horrible stuff can go on there sometimes and not result in immediate action. And it looks like that's, we're changing that now that the full scope, the full implications of protecting the platforms from that kind of action is becoming, now we're seeing that, well, it's all very well for Mark Zuckerberg to apologize and apologize and apologize and apologize, but eventually, maybe there might be better response if there is some kind of penalty and stuff. So that I think is important, and we're seeing that come up now. There's a lot of old stuff about the FCC that we could talk about at some point, but not today. Let's just see. Yeah. There's just so much of it. Too much.
We don't have enough time.
We don't. Today we're going to call it a day. Ownership qualifications. If you want to buy a television station or a radio station, you've got to be a U.S. citizen, which is why Rupert Murdoch, when he was trying to put together Fox, Rupert Murdoch, without a doubt, the most powerful media person in the world, who has pushed governments towards conservatism and the right in every English-speaking country, basically. So when he wanted to start the Fox television network, the broadcast network, not the cable channel, but he had to become a U.S. citizen in order to be able to do that, because we still restrict the right to ownership to U.S. citizens. So that's something that's still in place. Anyhow, enough for today, I think. Thanks, guys, for keeping it interesting, even there's so few of us today. But I will try to figure out what our most entertaining and useful trip through all of that information is before next class. So we'll try to tie it down to the type of things that are on the test. So cool. Thanks for coming in today, even though it said,
I didn't even know it said that. I don't really.
Yeah, well, I know, I understand. And usually, if there is anything important, I say it weeks in advance and over again. So
Or you send it like an email form.
I do that as well. I try to do it all the way I can.